Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Faye. I am from Your Heart's Path. And if you haven't listened to one of these live collective energy readings before, we do these monthly. And what it is that I do is work with my team spirit and utilize the elements of channeling, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognience, the array of beautiful things that we have available to us to translate the energy in which I'm picking up on collectively. So what this means is more of like taking a bird's eye view of the planet. Often this is kind of, I want to say like in rhythm with astrology, but the words in which we utilize are a little bit different. So we put these into different themes that we feel are the most intense themes that may be showing up inside of your reality. Take what it is that you want from it. Let the bits that resonate don't go. It's more about shifting your awareness and giving you some information and insight. So if these themes are occurring in your life, you've got some tools to work with them and kind of make some pivots and shifts. And I guess the reason, even though this video is, I don't want to say delayed, it's perfectly timed in some way. We normally do them at the beginning of the month to work through the month. This information came through about a week ago. There may be some extra bits whilst we go into channel mode. But really just to look at the last little chapter of January, we've obviously had this huge big shift as a lot of energy is starting to move direct if you want to look at the astrological terms. But from a channeling perspective, I really do feel like we are feeling and experiencing something that was very different towards the end of the year, even that very beginning part of January. And so with this fresh new feel at the moment, we're feeling like an element of intensity. And what they've sort of showed me initially is it's almost like a heart being restarted after it gets like shocked. And as the heart kind of like comes back online, it's also got to find its new rhythm. And I really do feel like we're trying to find our new rhythm with this new energy that has arisen from not only within, but is coming in externally as downloads and insight and inspiration. But we're finding our rhythm. And so it's really important right now not to be sprinting. It's nice to be able to respond to the inspiration as it arises and not to let things sort of stack up. But do know that we have a very big window of opportunity over the next, I'm going to say closer to 4 or 5 months to execute things that are coming through right now. So last year we kind of came off the bat of an experience where we had only small snippets of moments where we felt really inspired, and through those moments of inspiration we sort of learned very quickly if we didn't act and respond in that very moment that it would kind of fizzle out and die, and the energy that was behind it wasn't really there anymore. And I think last year taught us a lot about the natural process and cycle of the life, death, rebirth experience that we have on this spiritual journey. Yet it feels very much like a birth right now. And so if you're still in contraction stage and you're not quite there yet, but you feel like everybody else around you is, it's okay. Just let it take its natural and organic time. If you feel the need to rush and run and sprint, just catch yourself. You'll probably notice the connection with your breath in that space if it is moving really fast. Just try to slow things down as we're looking at finding a rhythm that provides consistency. So what kind of energy and vibration can you manage from the morning all the way through to the evening? And it's like you start to feel yourself in a different way. And it can come as waves of intensity that feels a bit like anxiety or frustration or irritability. But you'll notice that it's very quickly to calm and you become present with that energy. And you can actually talk to it and just say, hey, I've got plenty of time. Like, what's coming through for me today? So there's going to be a big nudge to honor your own intuition in this first, I want to say we are in the first month, but the last week of January, as your intuition is going to be your biggest guide as to what feels like a big yes. As we have all these big downloads that drop in, you can actually be receiving downloads for other people. So it's a really nice time if you feel inspired to share something with a friend or a family member, or, it's like sometimes we have messages to pass on. So don't be afraid to, if the other person is open to, always ask. Obviously, I had this beautiful dream. I'm not sure if this is directly for you, but perhaps this is something that I could pass on, or I have a beautiful idea. I really do feel like we've got a little bit of team spirit and community spirit coming to life right now. And the collaboration piece is something that's going to start to stew. So if you want to collaborate with people, create things with people, whether you're craving, like, community feels like something that's very much in regards to this energy as well. I do feel like we're going to start to act and follow through with some of these pieces that were really inspiring last year, but we didn't have the energy and the vitality to execute. So that's the beauty with this energy now. We do have the energy to start to take the steps, but we want to be wary as this intensity of the future vision, which is so beautiful right now, and the nudge to the bigger picture, the big grand experience that you are working towards, doesn't become overwhelming. So let it be something that's really beautiful, that you acknowledge, that you spend time in manifestation and creation, but please stay grounded and humble with where you are currently at, and ask your body on a daily, your spirit, your being, if you're in communication with your guides, ask them, what is my steps today in order, towards my bigger vision? Know that it's okay to have moments of contraction, moments of expansion. We're sort of just feeling this new rhythm and how you function differently now, as the vibration of your body and being is different now. And so it's kind of like a getting to know yourself at the same time as feeling a little bit more sure about what it is you're actually working towards. If you don't know what it is that you're working towards right now, then there can be an experience that you may be feeling kind of overwhelmed, and it can manifest almost as stress in the body and the being. The mental health is going to become your priority. So in regards to this and finding your new rhythm, it's almost like the vision is something that we do want to be spending time with, but there is no rush to get there. I feel like saying, if you want to be there in a month, give yourself 2 months. If you want to be there in a year, give yourself 2 years. If you want to be there in 2 years, give yourself 4 years. You get the gist. It's like, let it be an expansive feeling that teaches you to be okay with where you're currently at before you even arrive at your destination. And so it's going to be a lot about practicing the elements, or practicing what that life feels like, regardless of whether you have that thing right here, right now. So this is something like abundance. It's something that maybe you've been stressed about, that finance has been something as a collective that has been twisted and turned and kind of pulled, and it's definitely been an energy of tension over the last couple of years. A lot of you can feel like you've been pushing uphill and not really feeling like you're getting many results back in that respect, but keep going. It's going to feel lighter. Again, that energy is there to support you. But really, ultimately, what I want to say in regards to this is, I've lost my thought. Go back to that little thread, please. I think it's gone. It's okay. In regards to these things, the match, thank you. There's like, put two things together. So can you already feel the essence of gratitude prior to that thing even arriving? And that might not be that you're sitting there pretending that you're grateful that you've got X amount in your bank account and woohoo. It might just be that you start to focus on the trees or the birds or the people in your life, and that you start to feel gratitude and, I want to say, contentment with what is, which is what ends up holding your inspiration to act from a heart-centered place anyway. So we're not responding or acting out of stress. We're not responding or acting out of lack. We're not responding from a space that is, if I don't do this, I'll die. If I don't do this, I won't succeed. It's like, how pure can you get your action steps? I like that. How pure can your action steps be in regards to your mission, your purpose here in life? And get some support if you don't have that vision in place yet. That's something that I do offer privately, so you can find me on Instagram, message me if that's something you want some help with. Your vision can be purely feeling and sensation if that's what you would like. And this doesn't just have to be about career and purpose. This is such a huge theme in the spiritual community. And I think there's a lot of pressure to be in a particular way. But your vision and your purpose here might to be have your health improved, or to feel vitality, to be able to give more, to be able to have access to organic produce, to be in a space where simplify it. I honestly feel like the more you can simplify this right now, the less confusing and stuck in the head that we become. Luckily in this space, I'm actually feeling like emotionally, even though we might have explosive experiences where we can just be grateful for the trigger and actually do the work behind the scenes to seal some of that stuff over, or offer or open up a new element of awareness where vulnerability is allowed to take place, and we can see where we've made mistakes or where we could do better, or where some more light can shine in. Go kindly and gently on yourself in that place. But I do feel like we can be less connected or overwhelmed by our emotions over the next couple of weeks. This might actually trickle into February. They're saying it will. So it's easier to take the observation role right now. And my guides always say, like, the observer is the higher self. And I love that so very much, because in that moment when I'm like, okay, this is like out of my control, I've let things overwhelm me, I'm triggered, whatever it is, going into a space of observation without bypassing your emotional body will give you the tools and the insight that you need in order to like auto-correct in that space. I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going to use that anyway. You get what I mean? So emotionally, I do feel like this can actually be a blessing, because we're able to almost like shift from one space to another quite quickly. A mood is something that you're going to be very aware of. So if you're aware of a mood you've been stuck in, you can start to feel like, okay, this is something that I need to get to work at, and you can almost step back from it and kind of analyze and have a look. Oh, it's because I've been eating this and it doesn't agree with my body. Oh, it's because I've been thinking this and that's toxic for my system. Oh, it's because I've been spending time with this person and I feel drained every time I do that. Or I'm not listening to my intuition and I keep going and doing the same things over and over again that I know aren't right for my body and being in this moment in time, so I'm gonna do it differently. From that observer perspective, things can start to click into place. It's like the clicking into place is almost like a new gear, and you come more into alignment. You actually feel better to make different decisions and action in a different way, because you're not like being it's like not in an illusion bubble of your emotional body and being. So that means that if you have a day where, say, there's like a bit more stress in your system, you're going to feel motivated and inspired to bring an element of calmness and curiosity into that space. And you will, as the alchemist, using all the tools and techniques you already have, even if that's as simple as breath work and meditation, be able to soothe your emotional body. Soothing is going to be really important, and I do feel like spaces to just drop in and be in the quiet are really important now too. You can get big bursts of intuitive information, downloads, kind of settling in, ideas, epiphanies, these sorts of things in that space. If you struggle to just sit at home in silence and in quiet, go into nature and do this. Sit with your back up against a tree for that extra grounding. Go and sit by the ocean. It's almost like that working with the elements. You can ask the elements around you to support you to receive what it is you need to, or just to experience the quiet. The quiet in amongst the action lets you feel your new rhythm when things are moving slower too. We don't expect it to be moving faster in one direction all the time. It's an illusion. We kind of move in and out and through and around. We're multidimensional. We're never going to move in a straight line. And so even though you might see your vision in a directly straight line in front of you, if you actually have a look at it closer, there's lots of little things going on. And the more work you do to cleanse and clear out your soul and close down contracts that aren't for you, or learn the lessons and you do your integration, hands are moving on their own, the more narrow your path actually becomes. And I think the narrowing of the path with all the work that we did last year is going to be really start to felt in around February or March. So maybe that's something they'll bring up then. So this is good when it comes to the emotional body. It doesn't mean that we want to use this as like an excuse not to take responsibility for our emotions, but also there's an element of realistic, I want to say like a realistic vulnerability when it comes to this. I feel like we can communicate what it is that we're feeling a little bit more. Sometimes just putting words to a feeling and a sensation inside of the body is enough to have the epiphany to be able to release it and remove it if that's what it needs, or that it's just something that's been there and you're experiencing it and you can love it anyway. So there's no force with this journey anymore. The moment we begin to force is the moment that we start to feel this inside of our physical body. And there was an element of pressured force last year because we had these small little pockets, but please, this pocket is going to be open. Let the inspiration come, move from your heart, move from your heart, move from your heart. There'll be backlash if we're doing this just from our head, or to do something to get something in return, or, you know, it's like the entanglement of manipulation that we utilize for our own beings in order to try and get this thing quicker, faster, stronger, whatever it is an illusion. And so we might have little windows, cool, they just open like a little window. We will start to see where manipulation is happening internally, where you're doing that to yourself. It's like that fake it till you make it. Sometimes necessary, but also sometimes we can start to disbelieve what it is, and then we're not a vibrational match for it anyway, if that makes sense. But I feel like there's a window of opportunity in this with other people too. Pen on my hands. An opportunity to see where you feel like manipulation might be happening from an external source. So that could be like a boss, it could be like someone you've been seeing, it could be family members. And this doesn't always have to be conscious manipulation either. It can be like seeing mechanisms of control, or where you feel like your freedom has been squished or the truth is not being told. We're going to be very highly aware and attuned to the discord of an unloving or controlling vibration at this point in time too. So you will feel that emotionally inside of your body. You can have the awareness of where you might be trying to control your outer environment and wasting your energy and your time. People pleasing was something that came up in the very beginning of the month. So it's like in that moment where you're in a space and you're enjoying the company of other people, why is it that your energy and attention needs to go and make sure that everybody else is okay, even though there's stress momentarily building up in your own body? Can you drop back into that space, let go of the responsibility or the control in which you're bringing into the space that is more about you than it is about everyone else anyway, and actually just bring some love and joy into that space, and see if the sensations in your body or the emotional experiences are actually really humbling. Those that don't want to be in your space are going to drop away now anyway, or those unreal connections are going to start to become really transparent. If someone's spending time with you because they gain something from you and you're feeling really drained, it's like those circumstances and scenarios are just going to start to drop like flies. So I think this is really good when it comes to that essence of community that we spoke about right in the beginning, because we are craving on a collective level this desire to work closer to home, this desire to help out the neighbor, this desire to contribute in some way, whether that be to the land, community gardens, getting together with people locally, knowing full well that there is no mistake that you are living next door to who you live next door to, that you are at the gym with one particular person and you're there at the same time every day doing the same classes. Embrace these connections. I really do feel like there are so many, they're showing me like an unveiling. It's like there's something really beautiful under there, and if we just stop for a moment, we need two people to hold both corners. So like, I'll hold these two, you hold these two, and we can actually lift this thing off together, and there's all these beautiful experiences. And I feel like there are pieces of the puzzle come into this. Like, you might be in a space where you're like, well, I want to make gardens, and the other person's like, well, I'm really into composting, and the other person's like, I really love worm juice, or whatever it is. I know they're just using garden because it's you can understand that from a simplicity level, but this could be something a little bit more complex too, like a same business idea, and actually coming together and going, you know what, this is really easy because I can be in my genius, you can be in yours, you can be in yours, you can be in yours. But again, we want to bring that essence of like nice and slow, find your rhythm together, have coffee and food together first, you know, planning, you know, all this stuff is really beautiful. Your intuitive body is going to feel expansive when you're in a place for a yes, and it's going to feel contracted and closed and stiff if you're in a no right now. It's talking really, really loud. The intuitive body is almost talking more greatly than the emotional, and that can be sometimes purely because if we're in a very heightened emotional state, it's very hard to listen and hear the intuitive body. Sometimes almost impossible. I know for myself, I'm very expanded emotional experience. It's very hard to hear my own inner guidance or my own inner voice, even my guides at times. So part of that practice is being able to self-soothe, come back to a more of a neutral experience. But because that emotional piece is going to kind of, I want to say like balance out anyway, the intuitive body then begins to become louder. So we're giving more space for that. All right. Where do we want to go now? I do want to talk about this element of detox and minimalization and detox. They work very closely together. Minimalizing is an interesting one. I feel like we're just going to see where we've been overdoing it. Overdoing it with work, overdoing it with quantities of food in the body, overdoing it with overgiving, like the people-pleasing thing, over like too muchness. What's the too muchness? Buying too much food and wasting things. It does feel a little bit about like consumerism in some way. Like maybe you just needed one pair of bikinis for the summer and you bought 10 and now you've got 8 that you've never worn before and there was someone else that didn't get a pair. I don't know. It's kind of this sort of feeling. So we're becoming a little bit more mindful about the quantity of stuff. And this isn't to create any sense of there's no shame involved in any of this. Sometimes it's just connected to a feel-good thing or having, you know, more is better or whatever. I think we're going to start to hear some dialogue around that. Sometimes less is more. And I do really love that. That kind of comes into that space. And I think there's going to be a conscious minimizing. And that can be like emptying out cupboards, getting rid of clothes. I know I talk about this a bit, but it is really something that weighs on our body and our being if there is a too muchness happening. Is there anything else in regards to minimalizing? Okay, they're just taking me to the toxic part. I feel like it's going to bounce back in and out and somehow they're connected and I just can't see it yet. The detoxing part is something that I feel is going to be a strong pull for those who've been bypassing the physical body when it comes to the spiritual journey. It's just a must. Health is a huge part of this, quite literally to be able to intuitively hear the voice of your liver or your digestive system or be more in tune with your cycles if you're bleeding once a month or fertility, if you're getting ready to have a baby, or if you are, it's like, it really feels like the physical body is something like the mental health piece. If we're not working with mindfulness and these sorts of pieces, creating that stillness in that space, the listening, the reframing, the reprogramming, the belief work, the physical body is going to start to speak even louder. So if you're in a place right now, I've noticed inflammation has been coming up, not only my own body, other people's. Inflammation, they said, was a collective thing. Aches and pains in the joints, which is very connected to like a resistance to do things a little bit differently, but also just like a too muchness of particular things that you can get away with for a certain point of time, but then there's a point in where things sort of start to change, and it starts to go to that point. I'm sure there's a word for it, but it's like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then it's like, oh shit, that's not okay. It's like there's too much of something. And this feels like it is partly inside of the system. Help me make this sense. Help me make sense of this, please. So I think if there's this feeling inside of your body where you've got like aches and pains, joints, it feels a lot to do with like the ball and socket joint, almost like flexibility. I feel like these are our major limbs. Obviously, we've got them at the top of our legs where that feels like quite connected to the base chakra. So things at home, what can you detox at home? What can you minimize at home to create a more expansive space? Where else do we have them? Shoulders. Okay, so why is that connected? It's almost like detoxing this feeling around like the weight of the world. That sounds really corny. Oh, I don't want it to be corny. I want it to be like felt. Show me this deeper. I'm actually going to get some more pictures and images around these. Thank you. I like that. So they just show me like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So it's almost like the direct reflection of what's going on internally is going to start to happen really quickly. So if you drink every night for 3 weeks in a row, you might start to get gut pains 3 weeks later. Feels like now if you've got a bit of an intolerance to that and it's not really agreeing with your journey, you might have it on one occasion. You wake up next day and you're like, I am not doing this anymore. And we've got the energy to start to change things. Detox, I think, if you've got a particular organ that's presenting itself to you right now, it's having an emotional release. That's what I really want to say. If you've got like aware of your liver, if the digestive thing is coming online and you feel inspired to do something about it, it's a really beautiful time to do that, but not to the point where it puts you in utter lethargy, because we do want some action steps moving forward. But it also feels like detox with like water, washing things out. I feel like this has got a lot to do with, they're just showing me like bowels. And I also feel like, how can this make you feel more flexible in life? This also comes into the home environment. They're very much showing me this. I feel like there's going to be some of you that are like proper hermiting at the moment. And I think that that's perfectly okay. You don't need to be out there, you know, doing whatever it is that you do when you're out of sight of that space. If you feel like you need to be hermiting, you can still do things around your home, and that might just be this big detox. Empty out cupboards, all the other things, cobwebs, all the stuff that gets accumulated. It's like a spring clean. But I do feel like we're going to start to become more aware of the knowledge and the insight that we do already have in regards to toxins. So when we detox, we are removing toxins from the body or the system. That can be energetic, emotional, physical, and environmental. And so I do feel like we've got a lot of knowledge and wisdom in regards to like the water that we drink and tap water and sprays and things that we're putting on the benches. I feel like it's in makeup products, it's in moisturizers that we apply to our skin. And we can look at, I think we're going to have like the courage to like turn your box of biscuits over and read the ingredients and be like, oh, it's interesting. I know that XYZ and blah, 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 inflammation, mood, tired, exhausted, aches and pains in my body. Oh, okay. And instead of just kind of like giving into it and eating the whole box, you might be like, you know what? I'm going to get something different. And it's like an opportunity to make better choices. So if your sprays and things and your cleaning products and all that stuff, like you run out, it's a really beautiful time to make that switch. It's not hard to go and find the resources that you need. Ask your community members who's got nice washing powder and these sorts of things, because we're going to start to become more and more sensitive to environmental factors. Mold has been something on the radar as well. I just feel like we're spring cleaning not only our body and our being in some way, not to the point where it's like that's all we're doing, but what you do to your environment is going to have an immediate effect on your internal body and being as well. Anything else in regards to detoxing, please? They're just saying here that it can be people right now. It can be detoxing bad, like, no, I don't want to say bad. I don't like that I do that. Negative thought forms, dialogues, heightened awareness, new vibration, seeing a little bit deeper into the truth. Hold on a second, that thought form is not resonating with my future vision. Hold on a moment. My diet is sabotaging the feeling of freedom inside of my system because I want to be energized to be able to execute X, Y, Z. Skin, I feel like this like mask peeling thing. I feel like this is something I'm really curious about right now, like makeup and stuff. It became a part of my ritual, and now I'm kind of like, I want to change some of these products. My skin's not enjoying this. It was okay for the first 3 months, and now I'm feeling like, vibrationally, that doesn't feel great. And not only that, karmic oversoul is something that has been on the radar. Karmic oversoul is something like an impression that somebody else leaves. So any energy that you can pour into something to just like brighten it up, because we want to keep this really real, in a sense that if you don't have XYZ to be able to buy all organic produce and you're still buying some things from the supermarket and all the rest of it, I get it. Talk to your products. You literally have energy inside of your body to upgrade, to bless. I feel like that's where like gratitude for your food and blessing your food originally came from. It was obviously a lot purer back then, food sources, without the chemicals and these sorts of things. But there is a process to like washing your veg in particular, things to get rid of like the outer layer of the toxic shit that we just don't need in our systems, that accumulates over time, that can start to manifest in ways where the organs start to get sore, there's aches and pains in the body, etc. So detoxing, I really do feel like that's something, if it is alive for you. If it's not, it might be more practical. What can I get rid of in the space to allow more flow, more air, more fluidity? Anything else that I've missed? I'm just going to have a look at my notes. I think water, I'm just going to touch on this really briefly, only because I felt like after the download came in, lots of other people got the download around water as well. It's obviously Aquarius season, I'm going to say, which is like the water bearer, or the water is the element. I just feel like this is a really beautiful way to detox right now. Whether you're ice bathing and shedding like big intense emotions, or whether it's just to support the inflammation in your body, whether you are sitting by the water to create that like nice and peaceful experience to receive intuitive prompts, whether you are connecting on an energetic level with the squid or the octopus or the oyster, or animals are really beautiful spirits to assist us not only alchemically but also on a vibrational level. If you want to invoke spirits of the animal kingdom at the moment, I feel like the water spirits or the water beings are going to be really beautiful. If you're connected to the mermaid world, and the spirit of the mermaid would be really beautiful. I feel like they're going to be showing up in some of your dreams. But water just in general, it's literally alive, it's programmable, you can hack it. And if you can pour light into it, literally, you can ask your higher self to please infuse it with a beautiful colored ray that comes to mind. That was something a friend showed me the other week, and it was really beautiful. I could feel it moving through my system. Water is very connected to our emotions, yet I do feel like when we're in that observation mode, we're able to come into that place and do it with great intention. I'm not going to go any deeper into the water, even though there's much to say with this. I feel like we'll talk about that a little bit more in February, potentially. But I did want to bring on this maybe final theme. We'll see how we go. Participating practically in your spiritual evolution is really important. We've shifted gears from a space where we spent a lot of time like inward last year, and this is still important. Please don't get me wrong. Always do your meditation and all these other pieces. It's super important, but it's kind of like, we're in the swing of that now. Like, okay, my meditation practice is a part of my life. My yoga is part of my life. Whatever it is that you're doing, breath work, it's like, cool. It's like having a cup of tea and brushing your teeth. Hopefully, even if it means that you're doing less but doing it more regularly. So maybe it's not a 2-hour session, you're doing a 10-minute one. You're kind of trying to get it into your new rhythm every day because you feel the support that it has, and it's just more easeful. I feel like we're going to start to bridge the gap between like deep inner work, eyes closed, nothing stimulating in the environment. We're like walking over the bridge to start to bridge it to our outer reality a little bit more. And how can we tweak and participate intentionally, practically, with practical magic in our physical reality to also support what goes on in the middle? And so it's like with your eyes open. That actually, as they're saying, it might be like meditating with your eyes open and seeing how that's a really different experience. Maybe it's staring at a flame, or like just watching an object, a tree moving in the wind, and keeping your thoughts and stuff really quiet. But it also just feels like, what can you do with your day to day to start to bring practical magic in it's like the magician energy. It feels like working not just when, I don't know, like the uniform's on and right ready here. It's like, no, how can this be a part of more of your everyday life? How can your intentional, alchemical, beautiful body and being influence not only yourself but the environment around you in a really beautiful way? And that can be like, reminds me of Matt Kahn. He used to say things like, I remember listening to him when I was really young, and he used to say things like he'd pick up his pen, this is just what I've got here, and he'd be like, everything I write with my pen is amplified 1,000 times. And then he would sit down, this is just an example, I love you, I love you, I love you, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. And every time I see those words as I walk past, because I've stuck it on my wall, I am reminded, and the energy comes to life again in my system. This stuff literally sounds like codswallop. I get it if this is not something that you're participating in. But if it's not, just try, because you've got nothing to lose. Go watch the rice challenge. That's the most awesome thing. And that's what happens with the water as well. When you literally infuse things, the cellular structure of things actually changes. The rice challenge is where they cook the same batch, say lovely, positive, high vibrational words to one, negative stuff or abandon the other one. This one goes really rotten. This one kind of stays okay. There's thousands of it. It's literally like we can influence what's going on around us. So I feel like we're going to be more encouraged to do that, because we are feeling okay with the inner work stuff, the putting time aside and prioritizing that. And if you're not and you're still struggling with that, make the sessions shorter and more regular. But yeah, participating in your evolution, that might mean as well, like I feel like a lot of people are going to be like hiring coaches, maybe getting a counselor, maybe getting a PT, maybe it's like hiring someone that can support you to do the thing that you've felt like has been a bit overwhelming by yourself. It also means that you can stay in your genius. Genius feels like something we're going to talk about in February, so I might just make a little note about that. I'm sure the download will come in if it's necessary. And the only other thing that I've really written down here in the participating practice in my evolution is, when you want to tap into this, just ask the question, what am I newly aware of? I love that. What am I newly aware of? And it can be like an awareness, but what are you going to do with it? What are we going to do with it, or what are we going to do about it, or how are we going to participate? It's not something that we're going to be able to sit on and just stew on anymore. I feel like before, like that same experience that I had prior was like, oh, I want to start bringing some more stuff through, but my team are like, can you get this one through first? It was like layer 1, layer 2, and it's like step 1, step 2, step 1, step 2. So it's systematic, but it's also got a practical element. It's like, okay, well, I'll just sit down and do this part, and then the next stuff will start to unfold. So really awesome time to get organized as well if you haven't already. Some people work really well by having like a to-dos list, or mapping out what your month looks like, some of the goals that you have in place, but take a really holistic approach with this as well. I feel like physically we're going to start to notice the changes inside of our body pretty quickly if we start putting the action steps forward. So this is definitely about action, but it's not about sprinting. It's kind of about finding your new rhythm, some that's going to be really natural and some that's going to take a conscious effort and a little bit of awareness there. Anything else that we need to bring in specifically? I just see bees. Bees and honey. Anything about this in particular? I don't know how they expect me to explain that to you. I literally just saw, I'm just going to explain this. This is how weird these things get sometimes. As a translator, it's so beautiful and really exciting. But maybe this is just for one of you in particular. The honey kind of came down. I could see bees, more like bumblebees, but they weren't. I'm just going to call them bees. They were just cartoony looking. Came up towards the glass, and it thought that it couldn't go through the glass because the glass was solid. But what happened was that it became a texture or a substance where the honey almost became like so bright it turned into light, and the bee went through and out the other side. So it might feel like that right now, like things like, oh, okay, I'm going there, I'm moving in that direction, but it's a little bit sticky. I don't know how I'm going to get through there. Oh my God, hold on a second, what just happened? And then all of a sudden you're out the other side. So almost like the birth thing, I guess. Be mindful of the information you receive, including this. Like there might be 1 or 2 things that you take from this video, and that's what I would love. I want you to be empowered inside of your own internal system where you're like, that's a true for me, that's not a true for me. That's an expansive yes for me, that's a contracted no for me. Obviously, we want to understand or neutralize our yays and our nays, or get curious. And I think curiosity is going to be key right now. Oh, the last theme I almost forgot. Sobriety. I'm loving this one because you know how I feel about this as far as the spiritual work and just how much of us, I don't want to say like a superpower, but it's like putting a jetpack on because of the clarity you have internally. You're not dumbing down your senses, because that's what I see it doing on a very simple level. It makes people feel less, but more, but it's not real, and it is real. Anyway, there's something going on in the ether that is dropping down. This is not for everybody, but you might see this in your friendship groups. People are like, I'm not drinking alcohol this year, or I'm not taking drugs anymore, or I'm going to come off my antidepressants because I don't want them in my system anymore. Not to say they're bad, by the way. We all need these things and have different relationships and experiences with them. It's totally okay. No judgment here. But specifically in regards to this message, it came in and around sobriety. And I think there are people that are going to be inspired. I'm going to take 6 months off that might last 2 years. I'm going to take, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol through the week and just have one on the weekend. But then they feel so good through the week, they actually decide not to have it on the weekend. So it's not a punishment. It's not I'm doing this because it's bad. It's just like an inspiration. If you've struggled with drugs, or it's sort of like a dependence on a substance, there can be some like great momentum to have breakthroughs with this, often connected to elements of trauma or oversensitivity. There can be breakthroughs in this arena. So get curious, ask yourself the questions. Great time to sort of reflect, journal about this, call in the support that you may need to go through that journey. But I just think that's really interesting. And if that's something that has like arisen for you, and there's conflict in your external environment in regards to changing your habits because it makes other people uncomfortable, then again, assess your environment, detox those who you don't need around you or aren't for your highest good, and just know that when something leaves, we have room for expansion, or yes, sort of your new connections start to come through. It'll change. It changes. When we change something big like that, we have to experience some form of difference in our life. And I do feel like this is going to be a positive experience for a lot of people. I know that was a lot of information just for January. Some of those themes may trickle into February. February, I don't know yet. They haven't really started bringing that information in. But I will be back for the beginning of February. I'll try to get it up for you a couple of days before. Often I'm right on there, so we'll just see. I'm not going to make promises that I can't keep, but my intention is to show up February to give you the energy reading there. Your support is greatly appreciated. I am intending to, I don't want to say reach more of you this year, expansion. So if you have a friend or a family member that you think will receive some value out of this, please don't hesitate, share, say hello in the comments section. I really do feel like that all helps. Subscribe if you haven't already. If I have uploaded this onto Instagram, which I just might, then that's okay. Obviously you can't do these things here, but you most definitely can make a little comment in the section, perhaps tag someone that might get some value out of this. Again, I love this. I'm very excited to be here. I also would like to mention that I've got 20% off on all of my services for the rest of January. So that includes readings, it includes intuitive development programs, the mini readings that I have, which is a really beautiful way to taste my work. It's really, really affordable. You ask one question, I send you the answer back through a voice message. You can kind of feel whether you resonate with me or not before you invest in a longer session or something that's more of a financial investment in that space. I've got my intuitive, or the Foundations of Intuitive Living program, which is really structure and foundational stuff. So if the base chakra that we spoke about with the hips and the ball and socket joints, and that's been an area of your body that's really drawing your attention and your energy, that could be something that's really good for you right now. It's a lot about calling your power back and really experiencing true embodiment to strengthen your awareness and your intuition so that you can start responding from this present moment. Sounds like, I don't know, but it's really great. It's stuff that I still utilize now. And so it's like a self-paced course that gets sent to you by email, and you can just take it as slow or as fast as you desire. Maybe find that nice rhythm with it. But the code is, I will pop below this video. Take advantage of it. It's a great way and a perfect time if you really would like some assistance mentally, emotionally, physically, and energetically, by receiving some guidance to empower you, bring clarity, inspiration, all the things. Mwah. it's with great love and gratitude that I see you in this year of 2023. I'm excited for you and what is to come of your journey. And I'm also excited to be sharing more with you. Truer, deeper, more love. All right. See you soon.